Good morning, everyone. I'm up very early today because today's not a normal day. I am going into a customer site with my sales rep, Cassie, who you will meet soon. Just have my breakfast cooking in the background right now. It's not even 7 o'clock. The sun is still coming up in the morning, and this is very early for me. So like I said, not a normal day for me. Instead of going into the office or working from home, I'm going to customer site. We're going to a hospital to do some education for some nurses in the ICU, and then we're going to be having a discussion with the chemotherapy department about some new sets that we're launching. So this hospital that we're going to is 2 hours away. So I'm deciding to eat breakfast this morning, which I don't normally do. I'm wearing scrubs because I like to blend in with the nurses, not look like I'm a corporate person when I go to hospitals. But I'm also wearing a cardigan because hospitals are freezing. Okay, so I'm just gonna eat breakfast and then we're gonna head out on the road. Okay, so I just made it to the office. I'm here to pick up a box of supplies that I made for Cassie, samples, product samples, brochures, stuff like that. I'm here to pick it up and get my computer. And oh, I see Cassie right now. Hey guys, so I'm with Cassie. We're heading to our hospital right now. But I wanted to give you guys a perspective on what it's like for a sales rep to have what the marketing department does for sales reps. So Cassie.
Hi guys.
Focus on the road.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so Cassie and I actually know each other from middle school, elementary school, way back when. And she's actually my referral to this company, so cha-ching for my referral bonus. No, but yeah, Cassie's special because we live close to each other-ish, and she brings me out to her customer visits a lot just because when she was getting onboarded, we talked a lot about what it means to be successful at our company. So we developed that kind of relationship where I didn't really have that with other sales reps because when I started, they had already been out in the field with their relationships and stuff. So we like Cassie because Cassie brings us on the field. Marketing doesn't get to go to the field very often. Okay, so like I said, we're going to this hospital. We're going to be doing some education with some ICU nurses, and then later on we're having a discussion with oncology about products. But from a sales rep's perspective, what is it like to have a marketing person on the inside at head office, or what does marketing do for you to make your job easier?
Well, I would say, globally our company is quite large and we have a lot of resources, but in Canada specifically, we have a pretty small staff in terms of what's available in the office. And what that means is we can work closely with you guys and give you guys a really good perspective on what we need in terms of marketing material. And for you guys to be able to do that, you need to understand what it's like from the customer's perspective. So I think it's super important that you get more field exposure, just understanding, how we interact with nurses, what they expect from us in terms of resources we can offer them, from education material to implementations to online content, stuff like that. So it's important that you understand what they expect from us in order for me to go to you and ask you to create some content for us. So
yeah, I think you bring up a good point because I feel in other domains of marketing, it's very much marketing just comes up with all the ideas and it's customer facing. So you just put the message out there and people either buy it or they don't buy it. But when in medical sales, you create brochures to sell the product, but then after you make the sale, you have to go in and follow up with education and implementation and create quick reference guides, create application videos so nurses know how to use this, even when our sales reps leave and it's just them on their own. So that's a really good point because I remember one time we were making a brochure and I was using all the wrong terminology and you're nobody calls it that. You're gonna look like an idiot if you use that word in the brochure.
Yeah, understanding the correct medical jargon is super important, and really it stems down to just credibility for the nurses to understand that you're credible in talking about this specific
product.
product or like talking with a specific department. The way you interact with anesthesia is different than the way you interact with DOR and the ICU and oncology and pharmacy. Like all of these different things have really different dynamics. So making sure you're using the correct terminology and the correct way to address someone as well is super important. So yeah, and all that stuff you learn in the field. You don't learn that in the office. So it's really important that you get the exposure that way, because I know that the way that I learned as well, because I mean I was starting off with not a lot of field kind of experience. So,
right.
Yeah,
learning from other sales reps and then communicating that back to head office so that we're always in the loop about what's out there. And even for like RFPs, when we submit for like these big national contracts, like we need to know what the hospitals want, so like when we're doing our submissions we can like put that wording into the submission so they know that we know that we know what they want.
Yes.
Yeah.
In terms of like
a lot of gameplay.
There's a few like different initiatives that are more important now than they were a few years ago, like environmental
sustainability,
environmental stuff, sustainability, even just basic safety in terms of like when you're talking about anything with vascular access, like needle stick injuries, blood exposure, understanding that like needle stick injuries are more prominent than issues with blood exposure. From an industry perspective, there's a huge push to have blood control products, but from a nursing perspective, they deal with blood on the regular basis, so they're not scared by it, they're not concerned with it, so it's not so much of thing that they focus on. So understanding those kind of dynamics is important.
It's also because it's difficult in medical sales, because like you're selling a product to nurses who are going to be using it, but the people who make the decision to buy it are not nurses. So you're selling it to like purchasing or procurement, and like they don't necessarily know or care about the features that we're talking about that the nurses care about, but like you need approval from both to make it happen. Or sometimes you just go over top the nurses and sell it to procurement, and the nurses are like very pissed that you did that. So it's tough. It's a tough job. I couldn't be a sales rep. I like to sit behind my desk and type on my computer and only go out when the customers are nice.
Well, I mean, today we might get a bit of a pushback. With the nurses in the ICU, they're experiencing some difficulties in our products. But that's just part of the job, and it's just an opportunity to learn and understand how their workflow looks, and whether there can be some implementation changes that might dramatically affect how they're using our devices. So, it's just a learning opportunity.
Right, it's like how you handle the customer grievances that count.
Yes.
Not just like giving them new stuff. Okay, so we're almost at the hospital. Cassie and I are just gonna like work on some emails, I guess. Well, not Cassie, she's driving. I'm gonna work on some emails and spreadsheets before we get there. I'm not gonna bring the camera into the hospital because patient privacy and whatnot. But I'll try to get some B-roll of Cassie in action during her education. Okay, so we'll see you guys in the hospital. Guys, you will not believe what I just found. What is going on? And this is why healthcare needs an upgrade. Okay, so we're back in the cafeteria, like the main lobby of the hospital. We had just dealt with the ICU nurses. We showed them the new sets. We showed them how it works, the differences between their old set and their new sets. They took it really well, we think. We're just waiting for our next meeting at 1. We're gonna answer some emails, have lunch, just maybe prep for what we want to talk about in our next meeting. But like Cassie, how do you think it went?
I think it went really well. They were very receptive to it. I think it's really important to do it collaboratively, having an open and honest discussion about what's been challenging them thus far and what potentially, are going to be the impacts of using this new system. Understanding that it might not fix all problems, but it'll definitely, hopefully, improve those issues. And like I said, just being open to any criticisms that we receive from them, and doing our best to listen and learn. And there's things that I didn't consider, like pressure sensitivities to certain drugs that are a little bit thicker, and certain things that are warmed, like blood. So yeah, it's really important just to keep it a two-way street in terms of communication. Yeah.
It's great sales advice from Cassie. So yeah, we're gonna have lunch, and then I guess we'll go to our next meeting, and then we'll let you guys know how it goes. Okay, so before Cassie and I got lunch, we were trying to do some emails. Basically, when customers have problems with our products, we have to submit these complaints into our Salesforce, and that way, like, our quality department knows what's going on in the field, and they can monitor if, like, it's a one-off or if there's, like, a bigger problem at hand. So Cassie got some labels from the customer, and she was just importing them into Salesforce. So that's what we were talking about here. We were looking to see if the labels mention, like, what kind of material is in the sets, because a lot of times patients have allergies to latex, or some drugs can't be administered with certain materials like DEHP or PVC, and so the labels have that information. So Cassie's just inserting that information in Salesforce, and I'm trying desperately to connect to the VPN because the hospital had really terrible Wi-Fi, but I was not able to connect because where we were in rural Ontario didn't have great cell phone data to even connect to that. So internet was really slow, basically trying to answer my emails offline. Here Cassie's explaining how, like, one of our ASV valves work on our sets, and, like, there's a lot that happens in our products with, like, fluid dynamics and physics, and you can see that I'm seriously struggling with these ideas. No, but Cassie seems to understand it, so, like, that's good for her because she's the one that has to sell it ultimately. Another thing that the customer had asked for was to, like, basically send them communications on the products that they were using, and so Cassie was trying to, like, type up an email with all of that information. It's important when you're talking to customers that you're very clear about the language that you're using, because you don't want to be made liable, especially in a medical context, for someone misinterpreting what you're saying in an email and then using that information on a patient and something going wrong. So we always have a lot of, like, talking points that we give to our reps to make sure that they're using the right lingo and language when they're talking to customers and explaining how products work, because it's all about liability in healthcare and you don't want to be left holding the bag. So here I'm just listening to Cassie explain her email and making sure she got all the points before she sends that off to the customer. And we were also going to get lunch after this and then go to our meeting with the oncology nurses. So I definitely forgot to film that because we were too busy talking to them and working through our workshop with them. But that's essentially what happened after the fact. And in the next scene, you'll just see us getting back in the car and driving home. Okay, we're stuck in traffic right now. Oh, it doesn't even look traffic-y. Anyways, it's very traffic-y. So we're just gonna debrief what happened in the afternoon, because I can hold this steady without it being too crazy. Okay, so we spoke with oncology pharmacy and oncology nursing, and we showed them our new sets. It's good because they already use our infusion pump, so they're familiar with our pump, and so the sets made sense to them. So we didn't have that hurdle to get over. But it was interesting to see how they work through, like, their current clinical practices with our sets and how it would change with our new sets. And so we basically had, like, a brainstorming discovery session with them. We took out a bunch of samples, we let them play with it. They brought out their bags and their little, like, gadgets for drug admixture, and they were just, like, you know, walking us through their processes, and we were showing them, like, do it this way, don't do it that way. And I think they're gonna go forward with the trial, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that means we're gonna be making this drive a lot more often in the fall.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you think it went?
I think it went very well. I think, as you mentioned, getting them to kind of push past their knowledge gap on certain processes and look past what's currently done to what could be done, and really analyze why they do things the way that they do there.
Right.
So getting them to push past kind of, you know, their day-to-day and analyze that is always a little bit tricky. But, you know, once they get there and make the realization that other things are possible and that, you know, practice changes that can be implemented, then, yeah, you know, it's an exciting thing, and hopefully we can make some improvements for them in terms of safety, improving workflow, removing kind of the time it takes for setup, and, yeah, with anything in terms of hazardous drug administration, there's a lot more to be considered, and so they're very willing to kind of sit with us and have those conversations, which is always great to have, you know, a collaborative work environment. So yeah.
I think like what happened during COVID with the nursing like profession was that there's a lot of turnover, and so like right now they're all very hesitant to take on new projects where nurses would have to learn new processes because their job is already so stressful. So a lot of like the sales and marketing stuff that we do is about like easing fears of conversion, easing fears of like change management. We basically have to sell them on the fact that like, yes, you're gonna have to overcome this hurdle of change, but you're gonna like save money, or you're gonna save time, or you're gonna be more safe, right? Like you have to show them that it's worth the change.
You also have to sell them on not just the product, but you as a partner with the product
afterwards,
and that, you know, following implementation, we're going to be there no matter what, and following them through the life cycle of the product that they're using. So and what that means is really like what's education going to look like? Is there continuous education that can be given? You know, what does that look like for accreditation down the line? All these kinds of things. So it's not just selling a product, it's selling
the relationship,
the company as a, you know, a partner. Instead,
because even like this morning when we went to ICU, like we were using a new set to help them troubleshoot their problems. Like we didn't just like, you know, hide in our head office because we knew they were having problems with our sets. Like we went, we showed our faces, we tried to like give them options on how to fix the problem. So like
take responsibility
for the problems that we've caused. So like we always want to present ourselves as a partner that they can reach out to, and like they're not alone in their like care treatment. So yeah, medical marketing and sales is tough. It's not easy. A lot of stakeholders you got to take into consideration. Yeah, but
look at who we chatted with today. So in ICU, nursing management, clinical educators,
the actual nurses,
materials management, you know, and then for today, in oncology, you need to talk to nursing management there. You need to talk to pharmacy, and yeah, it just requires a lot of people to be at the table. So coordinating that and making sure you have clear understanding of roles and responsibilities is a huge kind of undertaking, but you need to do that to be successful. So
for sure. Okay, so the traffic is still trafficking.
Doing the most.
Yeah, it's doing a lot. We're moving slowly. But yeah, we're heading back to the office now. I think we're gonna get there probably before everyone leaves, which would be nice to see. But stay tuned for my next... Oh wait, no, we didn't talk about Jeff. Okay, so after our meeting, after our meeting, I actually was like double booked, and I completely missed that call. So our other sales rep had to go at his own, but he called me afterwards to fill me in on how that call went, because we're launching a new product, and we have a lot of like people who are interested in it because it's filling a back order. So we're trying to capitalize on as many accounts as we can right now. So yeah, I helped him make some like marketing posters for him. I sent him some samples. He had the call with the hospital. It went pretty well. We learned a lot about like their frustrations with the existing product and how we can like fill in that gap. I almost feel like when we do this with like filling back orders, we're like sliding into people's DMs.
Yeah.
It's the same method.
Yeah. Like, oh, so I see you're single.
Yeah. Let me just offer my services.
Yeah.
Literally the same thing. Yeah. So we're all out here in these streets.
Yeah.
Oh, we're moving now.
We are moving.
We're moving. Okay, so I will recap when I get home on what else happened today. Tried to answer emails in between all these meetings, but I was not successful. So we're going to have a lot of emails tomorrow when we're in the office. But that is all for now.